Hello, sweet friends. I'm so happy you're here to see what's going on in my world and what I'm sharing with you. Today I have a proverb for you. It's one of my favorite proverbs that I studied a while back, and I'd like to share with you some insights that I gained from it. I also have a partner proverb that goes with it that I'll also share in just another video, and now I'm going to put both of them together so that you can see how they kind of connect. The proverb that I want to go over today with you is Proverbs 14, verse 1, and it reads like this: "The wise woman builds her house. The foolish one, with her own hands, tears down hers." So if you go through this proverb and look at it, you can add a few extra words in here to make it be symmetrical. So you could look at this proverb and add some more words, and you could read, "The wise woman, without using her hands, builds her house and does not tear hers down. The foolish one, with using her hands, does not build her house, but tears it down and destroys it." So you can hear where one woman is not even using her hands and she is building her house, and the other one is using her hands but is tearing down her home. So I would just like to go over some of what I discovered when I studied this proverb. So the book of Proverbs, as you know, to start off with, covers many subjects, and a lot of them can be studied together. A lot of them give us practical wisdom. The section that this proverb comes from is called the Proverbs of Solomon, and most of the proverbs in this section are contradictory, meaning that a fancy collegiate word would be antithetical, but they are somewhat contradictory. So one verse will give you one side, and then the corresponding verse gives you the opposite. So although their context is exclusive and a meaning unto itself, they must be studied and pondered in the context of other proverbs that talk about the same subject. So that's why I'm going to look at Proverbs 14:1, and in a moment later, Proverbs 14:4. But let me go ahead back to Proverbs 14:1 and go over some of the literary devices that are in this proverb. So there is a metaphor in Proverbs 14:1. It mentions building her house. Now, you and I both know that the woman of the house is not going to be out there slinging a hammer. So we can know that this is a metonymy. This is like a metaphor or an allegory or an analogy. All of those words help us to understand what Solomon is saying when he speaks about her building her house. So because of the responsibility of a woman in her home, building a home is more than the physical dwelling. So the metaphor of building her house is figurative because, as I said, women do not build the physical structure of a house. Instead, the woman builds her home primarily through the bearing of children. If she is pious, industrious, and considerate, then the bills will be paid, the provisions will be made, the home will be clean, and the children will be well fed and educated. These are crucial points because the husband is often engaged in activities outside of the home. So even if the husband is neglectful in his duties, the wife can keep her home together. However, the most important way that a wise woman builds her house is by the fear of the Lord. And as mentioned in the earlier chapters of Proverbs, we know the way of wisdom is to fear the Lord. Therefore, the woman who reverences the Lord will be wise, and it will be reflected in her home. She who builds her home with the reverence of the Lord will adorn her home. It will be as if she has decorated her home with the very presence of the Lord. In this way, she will establish her home and make her home happy. It's also through the activity of building that God's saving activity is associated. There will be the building up of storehouses and fortify others are some of the expressions of that building. So by the use of this word, the metonymy that I gave you earlier, which I said is an allegory or a type of metaphor or even an analogy, mentioning a house is used to support all that is maintained in keeping a house. A wise woman will build a house which includes property, furniture, food, and clothing. This woman will relegate the affairs of the house and keep it in good condition. Though much of what has been mentioned has to do with physical aspects of building a home, the wise woman will also include patience with her husband. So, on the other hand, the foolish woman has the opposite result. She is often foolish and quick-tempered. She's doing things that she will later regret. Because of her folly, she draws attention to herself. She certainly needs discipline, but discipline that is couched in compassion and concern. She is at an important place in life because the moral insolence that she is expressing in her folly could turn into rebellion towards God. This woman can tear her house down by being wasteful and indulging in her ease and her appetites. She might even be inclined to a party lifestyle. In fact, at one time, Matthew Henry said, this woman's demise might be directly linked to playing cards. We don't have that problem so much today, but it is difficult. It is easy to understand how a foolish woman can tear down her house. To further illustrate the ability of a woman to destroy that which is so valued in her culture, the hand is often used metaphorically to symbolize power or strength. However, God is the one who's in authority in our lives, and the foolish woman could be the one who has symbolically taken authority from God to call it her own. This would certainly be easily understood by the readers of Proverbs because at each Sabbath, the woman of the house plays a very important role at the blessing of each Shabbat with her hands. To usurp the authority of God with her own hands would have been immediately visible on the Sabbath evening as a contrast to her life. Today's wise woman must be quite diverse, financially astute, conversant in fiscal responsibility with a diverse portfolio, and she must be able to not only stretch the hamburger for extra dinner guests, but also pick up the children from soccer, match the socks, prepare her next lesson for the Bible study, run the bath, and be ready to spend time with her husband after his long day on the job. All of this following the quiet time she spent with the Lord before anyone woke up. For others, all of this precedes the time that she will spend with the Lord when everyone has gone to bed. So I hope that you've enjoyed this first part of the Proverbs study. Again, we're doing Proverbs 14:1, and then my second part is going to be Proverbs 14:4. I'm going to link the two Proverbs together, and I think you're going to be amazed to see what an ox and a manger have to do with a woman building her house. In the meantime, have a blessed evening. I look forward to seeing you soon.